in the world of crypto this week? Well, here to talk with me about this is Eric Satz from Alto Solutions. Eric, welcome.
Bob, thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you here, and we're eager to have you talk with us about your firm's crypto IRA, what it is, how it works, what investors need to know about it.
So I think the first thing that I would say is that we're not trying to push any specific asset at Alto. More important from our perspective is that individuals find a way to diversify their portfolios. And so we believe that the best way to achieve that diversification, to reduce portfolio volatility and increase returns over time, is to find and gain access to alternative assets. So assets that we define as real estate, private equity, venture capital, artwork, securitized collectibles, and of course, crypto. And so Alto was built to enable individual investors to access their retirement accounts, their retirement savings, and invest in alternative assets in a seamless, user-friendly, cost-efficient way. And so that's why we built Alto. And we launched back in the first quarter of 2018, second quarter, I think it was maybe April. And we launched with this mission in mind. And of course, you know, for mass audience purposes, crypto was still, you know, I don't think people knew what Bitcoin was yet. But there was a very defined segment of early adopters who had clearly embraced, at this point in time anyway, Bitcoin. And I think Ethereum was sort of the fast follower to Bitcoin. And so we set out to build sort of consistent with our overall theme of user-friendly, easy to execute, cost efficient. We set out to build an IRA product that enabled individuals to easily invest in crypto assets. And we did that by partnering with Coinbase. We're the only IRA provider that is integrated with Coinbase. And so the big difference about what we enable for our investors relative to others in the marketplace is that you log into Alto, you log into your crypto IRA, and you trade directly from the Alto platform. And then we execute on your behalf via the Coinbase exchange. And so we've built this product. I'd like to say anyway, that we built this product on the basis of no setup fees, no monthly account fees, no custody fees, no taxes. And so that last one, of course, is a really important one because one of the, especially as crypto has, I think, certainly entered the mainstream vernacular. The other thing that has happened for a lot of early investors is they find themselves puzzling over how to pay their taxes in this space. And the beauty of investing out of your Alto crypto IRA, no taxes. So you can actually trade without any concern for what the ramifications may be, you know, come April or October, depending on your particular tax life cycle. And so we've removed all of that headache for people. We do it at the lowest entry cost point. So you can do as little as a $10 trade. And, you know, again, no carrying costs to your account. You only pay transaction fees. And as a result of our partnership and integration with Coinbase, we also offer the greatest number of crypto assets available on any platform. I think we're at 100 or more coins now. All right, maybe more than you were asking for, but
no, that's okay. That's a great start. You mentioned a transaction fee. Just talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so when you trade, it's a 1.5% transaction fee. But the good news here, which is pretty much the retail transaction fee at Coinbase, but the good news here is that through our partnership with Coinbase, we cover all of their associated fees. So you're only paying the single 1.5% transaction fee to Alto, nothing else.
Right. And I think it's worth noting that you've created this IRA as a self-directed IRA. Talk a little bit about that, because there is a difference between self-directed IRAs and the plain vanilla ones that you get from a large brokerage or mutual fund firm.
Sure. I mean, that's a great question. And I'll just tell you that saying self-directed IRA is a little bit like saying natural food. It's got a different meaning depending on your audience and the speaker. And when we talk about this, is actually why I actually rebranded the category to be the alternative IRA. And so you cannot yet go to Fidelity or Schwab or E-Trade and invest directly in Bitcoin or ETH or Solana or SHIB, for that matter, on any of those platforms. But what you can do is create an IRA account at Alto, specifically in this instance, an Alto crypto IRA. And I'll explain why we have a separate name for this product versus our regular Alto IRA product. But then you transfer cash, you transfer funds from an existing IRA account, wherever it may be, over to Alto, and then you're free to trade. And by the way, I think it's important to note that there are no tax consequences associated with that IRA to IRA transfer. Okay, so you're not creating any issues. The reason we refer to two separate sort of IRA accounts, sort of the Alto IRA on one side, in which you may invest in real estate or private equity, venture capital, artwork, et cetera, and crypto IRA on the other, was because when we first got into the business, it was still fairly opaque as to what the IRS and or the SEC may do with respect to crypto and what sort of regulatory positions they may take. And so what we wanted to do, out of an abundance of caution, is make sure that we weren't allowing our customers and investors to invest in what might become a prohibited transaction. And so that's why we did that. It turns out we didn't necessarily have to do that, but it also turns out that is good marketing. So we'll stick with the crypto IRA. We were actually the first ones to use the term and to coin the phrase. And I think it's, I don't know, better to be lucky than good, I guess.
Right. So my understanding of these types of accounts, at least with respect to real estate, is that there's a different set of summary plan documents that you have to create. I imagine that those are boilerplate for folks who set up a crypto IRA in your case.
So when you set up a crypto IRA, it's just like, again, there's a marketing component to this. A crypto IRA can take the form of either a traditional IRA, a SEP IRA, or a Roth IRA account. The crypto part is just marketing. And so you're gonna complete all the same forms and same set of paperwork, except for in the case of Alto, it's all done online and it's all digital and it'll take you less than 10 minutes. And it's pretty instantaneous. And so it's all the same sort of regulatory requirements that you're going to find in opening an IRA account at any other broker dealer. Okay.
And then you mentioned transferring funds from one firm to yours in order to open up the account. Can they contribute directly and open an account and establish an account that way as well?
Yes. So that's a great question. So I think for those who do and don't know, depending on your age, there's a new contribution limit into any given IRA account, actually in aggregate across all your IRA accounts. And so I'm not sure, I'm not going to give up my age, but for most people, it's right now, I think it's $6,000 a year. I can't remember if it got raised to $6,500 or not. But by your head shake, I'm going to assume 6,000 was correct. And I think is it over 55, Bob? It goes
over 50 for catch-up contributions?
Yeah, catch-up contribution. So over 50, then it's $7,000, I think it is.
Right.
So unfortunately, I qualify for that. but I just gave it away. Anyway, so yes, you can do new contributions, but you can also do transfers. I'll shorthand it as transfers in kind, right? Meaning you can move cash from one IRA account to another IRA account, and you can also do a 401k rollover. So if you've left an employer and you have a 401k sitting there, and you're thinking about what you want to do next, and you want to diversify your portfolio, we will actually help you with that rollover process, so you can move it from wherever the 401k is today to Alto.
So, like most IRAs, obviously, if you do take a distribution before 59.5, it'll be taxed as ordinary income plus a 10% penalty. But if you take the money out after 59.5, just be taxed as ordinary income from a traditional IRA, not so much from a Roth IRA. That money would be taxed. The distribution would be tax free.
That's right.
So nothing unusual in terms of how the IRAs work within Alto in that regard.
Nope. No new bells and whistles. Same regulatory framework and prohibited transaction rules as exist for everybody else.
Right.
I think the big difference here is that we've opened up a certain set of asset classes which previously have been walled off to most investors. And thankfully the SEC over the last let's just ballpark it at 10 years has taken a macro view of the world, which is that, more people need access to alternative assets if we're gonna sort of shift the fate of retirement in this country. And I say that because 70+% of all of our savings in this country lives in retirement accounts. And so as we think about, and by the way, I don't even like to say retirement anymore. I'm not sure that's necessarily going to be a thing 20 years from now. Yeah. I instead like to talk about financial choice, financial freedom, financial flexibility. And if we're going to put ourselves in a position where we have those things, then we then we need to have access to these other alternative asset classes. And so I think the SEC realized that. They have most recently changed the definition of what it means to be an accredited investor. We could talk for hours about whether or not I think we should have an accredited investor definition in the first place. And so I'll try not to go down that rabbit hole, but I will put in sort of my 2 cents very quickly, which is that I believe that wealth does not beget intelligence, but intelligence may beget wealth. And I think that should be the guiding light, not the other. And then with respect to, enabling access and broadening access, the SEC passed the Jobs Act, which stands for Jumpstart Our Business Startups Act, not the Steve Jobs Act, although it could be apropos. And within the Jobs Act was Title III and Reg CF, or Regulation Crowdfunding. And what that opened the door to was private equity investment for all. And that's one of the things. So if you come to Alto and you're looking for true portfolio diversification, of which crypto should play a percentage, a part, and these other asset classes should play a percentage or a part, we have built the infrastructure and the network that connects the Alto platform to all these other investment platforms. So we serve as the transaction hub or engine that enables this seamless execution of investments at a really cost-effective price.
Right. You mentioned an allocation to crypto. Most financial advisors that I talk to recommend 3 to 5% as an allocation. Any thoughts about what an appropriate amount would be from your perspective?
Yeah, I think especially as you're getting started here, I think that's an entirely appropriate amount. No, you're not going to get any argument from me on that. I think ideally, and I think this is really hard to achieve, by the way. And so you got to find the compromise that works for you and the level of homework and diligence and time you have to do the homework and diligence to figure out just how diversified your portfolio can be. And by which I mean the following, in an ideal world, I think each of us has 5% of our assets in 20 different asset categories. That's really hard for most of us. You know, the other way to say, or you could have 10 and 10, right? 10% in 10 different asset categories. I think the reality is that most of us will find 20% of our assets in 5 different asset categories. And that's just sort of the state of play, and how strapped people are for time. But I think it's way better than 60-40.
Right. The other thing is, there's been a great interest in NFTs. Any thoughts about whether that becomes available inside the IRA, or is it not?
Yeah, they will become available inside the IRA, and we're working on it. And again, this is where you know, NFTs mean a lot of things. Again, mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. And I think what's interesting about what's happened with Top Shot and the ape world, and many of the other sort of leading edge NFT, what I'll describe as artwork. I think that's just the beginning. I think they have proven that there is demand for scarce product. And you know, I think it's somewhat ironic that we refer to digital images as being scarce. But this is where I think maybe some education is useful in defining exactly what non-fungible means as opposed to fungible. And so if we think about fungible, dollars are fungible. Bitcoins are fungible. ERC20 tokens are fungible. Everyone is the same, right? Like you can, if you have that dollar bill, it's going to mean the same thing. Or if you have that, you know, evidence of Bitcoin, it's going to mean the exact same thing to whomever it is you're trying to give it to. The thing about NFT and non-fungible is that every single one is different. It's like fingers and fingerprints, right? And that's the thing that I think gets missed in the discussion of, you know, apes and Top Shots. It's what the technology is actually meant to create and what its use case is. And so, for example, we each have a home, right? Ownership of that home can be saved or evidence in the future in the form of an NFT that is recorded on a blockchain, right? And there's only one, right? You can't now. At the same time, your home may be worth 3 Bitcoin,
right?
But you can't. But anybody could have 3 Bitcoin. Yeah. Only one person is going to have the NFT of your home, and hopefully that's you.
All right. So in the time we have remaining, 3 questions. One is, you mentioned that you are the only player in the space right now, but there is a way for folks to invest in Bitcoin inside an IRA, but using the newly launched Bitcoin ETF. Any thoughts about that as an alternative or a means of getting access to Bitcoin inside an IRA?
Yeah, so I want to say first to your first statement, we are the only crypto IRA provider that's fully integrated with Coinbase. So I want to make that clear. There are other more expensive with higher minimums and higher trading fees ways to get crypto inside an IRA. We're the lowest cost provider. We're the easiest to use, and we're seamless, and we're the only ones integrated with Coinbase. So I just want to make sure that no one says like I'm saying
you're the only one.
Only do it with us.
That's fair. No,
so there are other ways. There are, I'm just going to say, other more complicated, expensive ways to do it, but you know, you choose. Okay. So yes, Bitcoin, and I think there may have been a word that's important to insert between 2 words or phrases you just said. You said Bitcoin and ETF, and I think the word that's missing in that is futures. So what's really happening if you're investing in the Bitcoin ETFs that were recently approved, is you're investing in a futures contract. Mm-hmm. And clearly there's demand for this, right? Because at least one of them, I'm not tracking them, at least one of them launched to great success. Yep. And I think different strokes for different folks. I specifically, Eric Satz, don't want to pay those fees. And I don't want to be constrained by the ups and downs of a given futures contract. Mm-hmm. You know, futures are really great if you're dealing in a commodity where you're part of a supply chain. Mm-hmm. And where it's so, you know, so if you're an apparel manufacturer and you need cotton, or you're an airline and you need gas, yep, and you want to be able to predict either internally or externally what your costs are going to be, then by all means go ahead and enter into a futures contract so you can lock in I'll say it in reverse. You can lock out the upside or downside. Right. You know, you know what it's going to be. Right. For me, and I think for a lot of people using an Alto crypto IRA, we're still in the very early innings of the crypto story. And in fact, I think we're at that really special moment in time that's not going to get repeated in the evolution of the crypto investment space. And I say that because I personally believe we have just gotten beyond the early adopters. And as part of those early adopters, we had some institutions, some corporates come in at the end of that. And we're now at a phase that I think is the fast followers. And the fast followers are the path to mass adoption and mass investment. I think that's where we are. And so personally, I want all the upside that's going to come with crypto. And so I don't want to invest in a futures ETF. I just want to invest in those crypto assets directly.
All right. So we've got about 2 minutes left. Was there any news in the world of crypto this past week that caught your attention that our viewers need to know about it from your perspective?
Solana, I think, is now number 4 among market capitalization of cryptocurrencies. I will tell you that it's the number 3 holding. If you look in aggregate at the Alto crypto IRA holding, Solana is actually number 3. I think we have, give or take, 30-ish, you know, sort of little more than 30-ish% in Bitcoin, a little less than 30% in ETH, give or take 16 to 18% in Solana, and then a very long tail of other crypto assets. And so I think again, we're in the early innings of the whole shooting match. And so it'd be interesting to see what happens. And I think Solana has a lot of excitement and traction around it. And I think the big driver there is its ability to execute, you know, 400,000 or 500,000 transactions per second, which will clearly be a game changer, I believe, in the future.
Right. Still not MasterCard and Visa like, but certainly better than other transactions with other tokens.
Still pretty darn fast.
Yeah. All right. Eric, I want to thank you for talking with us today about the crypto IRA. It's been a pleasure to learn more about it, and I'm sure our viewers will be just as eager to learn about it as well. So thank you.
Rob, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the time.